Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Habibis podcast. 3 game developers drinking good Arab tea. My name is Rami Ismail, your host for this episode, and my fellow Habibis are Osama Dorias and Fauzi Mesmar, who aren't here to do this by themselves because we recorded this episode live on twitch.tv/the_Habibis, and I messed up and didn't record the first few seconds. So I'm recording this and adding it in post, in edit. I hope you enjoyed the show. We had a good time, and sit back and relax.
This is illegal. I shouldn't be awake at this time.
Yeah, you should not. Nobody should be awake at that time.
I have to wake up at 5:30 to make tea.
Yeah. I have my tea as well. We all have tea.
So how do we do this? What do we do? This is new, uncharted territory.
I think we just tried the normal thing. Yeah, but now I have to look good while doing it. Normally,
that's easy, Rami. Come on.
Aww. I did my hair. It's a little different for you guys, I guess. Like Osama's got his hat.
Yeah, I cover my head.
Fauzi just looks good.
I did my hair. I roll out of bed like this.
I picked a green.
That's the benefit of not having hair. You just roll out of bed like this.
I picked a green cup for my tea, and it was a mistake.
This is green?
It's green, so it's green screening out.
I love it.
Are we going to have those conversations about, is the dress green or blue? Because we might do this about the smug right now.
This thing is, I did not think about that, but I cannot use this. So how's your week been?
Intense.
Oh man, what a week.
What a week?
Yeah, meetings on top of meetings.
Oh, one of those weeks.
Yes. Everything is starting late because everything ended late. You know that kind of week?
Oh yeah. Yep, I know the ones. I don't know. I've had a silly week. Lots of stuff to do. Again, didn't have time to play many video games. Just same thing. Same thing happened as before. I played Flight Simulator a lot. I played Mario Tennis Aces a lot.
Uh-huh.
I played a bit of Split Second. And I played one indie game that I completely forgot the name of that I really enjoyed. So while you tell me about what you played, how about I look up that indie game?
Sounds good. Also, this is a live episode, right? So, I think at each point in time, I might just pick a question from the chat and just read it out loud.
Oh, yeah. That sounds good.
Just, answer it. So, I just saw a question in the chat. It's do you guys usually see each other while recording? I was like, no, actually, we don't.
We don't. We tried that times. Once.
Yeah.
But we realized that we were looking at each other too much and we stopped explaining stuff. Oh, wow. Now the camera just broke and this is great. Oh, well, let's just keep going. I'll fix the camera. Oh, and now it's back. And now it's flipped. It flipped Fauzi and Osama around. This is awesome. Wait, I'm going to switch them around. Wait, just whoop. And whoop. Nope. Switch them back. No, I got the wrong one. Oh. There we go. This is going to sound so much better in the edit.
What happens if we merge this? It's like Dragon Ball. We create
a
new character.
I think you just get you, Fauzi, but with a hat.
It'll just be me with the blue hat.
Right.
And an insatiable appetite for hugs.
Right. Do you think we should tell Osama that he's muted?
Have I been muted the entire time? Nobody told me? What the hell? Thanks for nothing, guys.
These things live.
I wasn't sure if you were intentional.
No, it's not intentional. I was talking and contributing this entire time.
Wow. Well, we heard you during the intro. That part was great.
Yeah. What? How did I get muted again? I didn't press the button.
I have no idea. What have you guys been playing? What have you been up to, Fauzi?
I've been playing Nier Replicant.
Oh.
I remember you speaking about that in the podcast before. I've never played the original Nier. I played Nier Automata. I played a lot of Nier Automata, and I really, really enjoyed that. what a like a Nier Automata for me is like, one of those experiences that I think people need to have. It's just because it's just there's a lot of great things about that game. There's a lot of sad things about that game. There's amazing design. There's weird design decisions. It's just an experience that you have to take all in
Right.
and just go with it. And as you spoke about Nier Replicant, I wanted to go back and play the original on the PlayStation 3. But this one is like, I've heard that upraised a bunch of stuff and they fixed all of the earlier things. So I was like, best time to jump in.
Right. Yeah.
So probably the most interesting part about that game for me is seeing the origin of a lot of ideas that were later either appearing in Automata or just got better
Yeah.
in Nier Automata. So it's kind of like I'm like probably the annoying movie friend that as you're enjoying the movie, they're sitting like, look at the lights, look at the camera angles. I'm that annoying person when it comes to video games because like I enjoy games because of the craftsmanship of the game. Sometimes even more of the fun that the game provides. Like I would see the quest design and go like, oh, they did this and that, and that's how that. They threw away half of these things and then they improved these things, and that's how Nier Automata came to be, for example, is how I'm really enjoying Nier Replicant. Because sometimes like some things are like infuriating and they're not really well designed, but I kind of really enjoy how better designed they became as the developers kind of grew as game developers and as they kind of like got some ideas from the first game and then just grew on top of it for Nier Automata.
Yeah.
So that part of it I'm thoroughly enjoying. I need to give a shout out to just how amazing the soundtrack is.
Right.
I mean, like, Nier Automata soundtrack is probably one of the best music soundtracks for me of all time. Not the best, but like definitely on the list. Mm. And a lot of that is also in Nier Replicant. Like the music is outstanding. We just enjoy it the entire time. And the world building that those guys do, like this world is interesting. I really want to know what's going on as I'm like carrying on a bunch of quests at the beginning. And the quests, like at the beginning, they're not really diverging a lot from anything we've seen before.
I was gonna go with good. They're not very good, but yeah, sure.
They're like go get me this, go kill these guys over there, go talk to that person over here, and you're just following the marker for better or worse.
Mm-hmm.
But there's the flavor text that goes with them is wacky enough to go like, I want to see where this is going.
Right.
The story starts off by building enough intrigue to go like, okay, I want to see what happens. Or like it's doing the Yoko Taro thing of like starting a story thread, and then you follow it through a little bit, and then the screen goes black, and then it tells you 5,000 years later.
Right.
And then you start somewhere completely different. You're like, is that future, past?
Right.
What does 5,000 years mean to Yoko Taro, really?
Why does the world look not as new as it did 5,000 years earlier? What is happening?
Exactly. Yeah. It goes like, meanwhile, in the future, as I was just reading in the chat,
right?
And then like everybody is in fantasy outfits and they're carrying swords and they look like they went back in time. And I go like, okay, that's 5,000 years in the future. Yeah. But then, people with jetpacks appear out of nowhere and there's lasers and stuff. I go like,
okay,
this is a Nier game. Yeah. I'm supposed to take that in and just move forward with it. So
I think the thing I really appreciate about that game, the craftsman part that really got me, is how economic they are with their space. And I think as you go through the game and as you see more of it, you realize just how little there is. Yeah. But how well they're using it, it's like, that's a masterclass in like economic space design. Like they have like a number of zones and you just go through them 75,000 times. But every time you go through, you go to like another part of the zone and there's a different context. So it feels different. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad you're playing this one because the original was much more painful.
Okay. Wow.
It was, yeah.
There's some really like outdated design decisions that, like you can tell that this is a product of its time, but then again, they appeared somehow in Nier Automata. So I'm going like, this is a taste thing. And like, by that I mean like invisible walls in games is like
Yeah.
hasn't been a thing for quite some time. Or like we found ways to kind of hide it.
Hide it.
And like, clever design ways. But like this game flat out like you're walking at the edge of a cliff and you go like, no, there's a wall here. And then go like, okay, so maybe I can't go through here. Then you jump. And then you're down in the river and you're trapped. And you go like, also, I could jump through this invisible wall, but I couldn't walk through it. It's these kind of things. You go like, oh, this is like this is OG. Like I dig it, but weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I just switched mics, so if chat can let me know whether this microphone is better. Oh, thank God, I was just on the wrong microphone.
Yeah.
But yeah, Near is a special game. No, I'm loud. Okay, let me try and fix. Let me try and fix that. Let me just know what is happening. Or I'll just speak a little lower.
Fozzie, it's your turn to have mic issues. Me and Rami already did that.
Right. Okay.
Luckily, I was like meetings before and after this live thing, so my equipment has to work.
Everything is better. I just woke up.
Yeah, me too.
So Foz is like halfway through his day. We're like, Sabah khair.
I had just enough time to make tea. That's it.
What even is lunch?
Robbie, you're always in Canada time, no matter where you are.
That's true. So me and Osama are very synced right now, even though I'm much closer to Fauzi than I am to Osama. Osama and I were playing Flight Simulator yesterday night.
That was fun. Yeah. I didn't crash. Well, I didn't really crash. I landed before I crashed, so that's okay, right?
Before you crashed into the watchtower.
We're here.
Pretty
close.
Very close. I have a weird feeling that three Arabs shouldn't be having this conversation online somewhere. But...
Well, I mean, I was trying not to crash, so that counts for something.
It's recorded. Three Arab guys crashing a plane. This is what they're doing. Oh wow.
Oh no.
Just the FBI calls in. They're like, "Salam alaikum." We're like, "What?"
I'm gonna get a knock on the door.
In one of our first episodes, we just said hi to the FBI guys that we know are actually
it's the CIA.
To the CIA, it's like
at one point, this is gonna happen anyway. Yeah,
absolutely.
To the CIA guys, this is the video game. Swear to God.
Talking about
three Arab guys, when they swear to God, this is like a big thing. You gotta believe it.
Check our Xbox hours. I promise.
Oh man, but seriously, Flight Simulator is a lot of fun. But fiddling with the autopilot is so complex. It's not like you. It's like you have to learn how to fly a plane. It's that real. So when I'm there and I'm looking at all these knobs, and Rami's like, "Okay, turn the knob with ADT on it," and there's like 150, and I'm looking at each one, and my plane is slowly going down. And I'm like, okay, go back to controls, bring it back up, and repeat 5 times before I finally find that little knob. And I'm like, how do you know this, Rami? He's like,
just played a lot of Flight Simulator and used to fly his Cessna.
But it's easy.
Yeah, it was fun because like I would go and be like, okay, Osama, find the AP button. And he'd say, okay, where is it? I'm like, on the left. And in the meanwhile, I see his airplane just like starting to sink relative to mine and like going towards the ground. And I'm like, you better find that button quick because the ground is getting real close. And he's like, oh. And he's moving back up again. And he's like, and then he gets back up and he's like, wait, so what button do I press again? Is this like the AP button? He's like, okay, let me look for it. And his airplane starts sinking again. Just the same cycle like 7 times.
Well, it's complex. It's literally like learning how to fly a plane. I mean, come on. But I'm so hard on myself when I don't pick up something in games quickly, right? So I'm like, no, I gotta know this. I get so frustrated and. Yeah, but thank you for being patient with me, Rami, as I crashed into the watchtower.
I mean, like I said, you're literally learning to fly an airplane, so there's a little bit of patience there.
Yes.
But
so, what was Osama's first flight? From where to where?
What was your first flight? That wasn't yesterday. We flew earlier, which was it was a longer flight. What did we start from Montreal? No, we didn't.
Yeah. The first one was Montreal. We flew over. And we saw we saw some landmarks, the Olympic Stadium, the Ubisoft building.
Oh yeah, we flew over the
Yeah.
Ubisoft building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You used to work at Gameloft too, Fauzi, right?
I did, yeah. I
We
worked
flew
in,
over the Gameloft building in Montreal too.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So like that kind of thing. You know,
And
the
then we did,
landmarks.
and then we
The
did a
landmarks.
short flight,
The game
like
lost. Yeah, it's one
just
of
like the
landmarks.
prettiest buildings in Montreal. And
It's
then
the
we did
Eiffel Tower of Montreal, really. It's
Right.
the game loft building.
Oh, and
Yeah.
then we did Casablanca to Gibraltar.
Yes,
Ah.
that's true. Yes.
That
but
was
did we
your
do that
first jet
before?
flight.
Did we do that before or after? No, that was after we went to the mountains, Mount Everest.
Oh
Mount
yeah,
Everest
yeah, we
was
did Mount
first.
Everest. Oh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had you try to land at Lukla, which is one of the hardest approaches on Earth.
I failed. Didn't work. I
so you
missed
have
it by this much, but that's just enough for your plane to just go flying to the side.
Lukla is a very hard airport to land at. One of the hardest to land at in the world. It's basically under a really steep angle upwards. It's on a mountainside. If you're too short, you fall down a cliff. If you don't make it, you hit a mountain. And it's a short runway, so you can't go fast. So basically, if you fail the landing, you just kind of die. So we started above Everest and then flew down to Lukla and then had Osama try and land. And he was short. So
And
I
it's
was
windy
watching.
the entire time, so I couldn't even get used to the controls. I was going up, I was going down, so I'm like, okay, I have to get this. And it was like a gust of wind, and I hit the pavement. It was ridiculous.
It was really funny to watch from the runway because I'm just sitting there and I see the airplane lined up. It's lined up, and then it just like goes under the runway. And I'm like, oh wait, no,
I was
not that.
compensating for the wind. I just overcompensated. But that's the thing. This is the
Don't compensate
statistic.
downwards.
So Ravi's sadistic. He's like, "Oh, your second flight? Let me give you the hardest landing of all time."
Well,
Like,
I mean,
and I'm so easygoing. I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not? Let's try it."
from there, everything is easy.
Yeah, I keep close though. I keep pretty close. I
Mhm.
mean,
Mhm.
and, yeah. My
then-
only goal is to land the plane. So
Right.
even when I succeed in landing, Rami's like, that was pretty violent. I mean, you landed, but that was pretty violent. And I'm like, what do you want from me? This is my third landing ever. Like,
It's
The
tough
song keeps
love.
going. He keeps going like every landing you can walk away from. I'm like, maybe you can walk away, but your airplane is not. You can't use that airplane again.
yeah, but those
Rami is
passengers-
really an Arab dad if you think about it. Like, you were like, I just, graduated the second of 800 people.
Why don't you have a
great.
real job? Huh?
Not
Why
the
don't
first.
you have a real job?
Why not first?
What is the
Like, like in Arabic, like, oh, بس ما جبت امتياز. Like, you were very, very good, but not
Yeah.
excellent. You
Right. There's always a little there. We can do better.
yeah, yeah.
No, and then he did a jet flight, and this is where that story comes from. He did a jet flight, right? Troubles with the flaps before takeoff, like still managed to get airborne, flying around. Problems with the autopilot on approach, and then he brings it in for final. He manages somehow it ends up lined up with the runway. And he lands it just like they call it butter smooth, right? Like it's butter. He butters the landing, just like smooth as landing.
That's what they call Osama generally. He's
And then he just stops in the middle of the runway, stopping all traffic behind him from landing. And then he's like, "Oh, I have to get off the runway." And he just puts the plane in like full acceleration towards the buildings on the left. Sort of drifts off the runway, hits the emergency brake, and like perfectly parks his nose on the terminal building.
Yeah.
And that's how the flight ended. So
So I was giving the people who were waiting for their flight a show. That was really it. It
Right.
works.
that's basically what happened.
Yeah.
It was good to watch.
It was a little stressful to fly, but it was fun. I can't wait to do it again. I want to try all the different airports, but maybe
There's a few.
Yeah, I want to go back to Everest someday. Maybe not right away.
Right.
That was a difficult flight. Yeah, that was not easy.
I think that is the fun of flight simulator is that you really just kind of set your own challenges.
Yeah.
Right? It's not really like, oh, you have to do this thing, you have to complete these missions. There's a few missions in the game. Like you can do landing challenges. Lukla is one of them. But there's a bunch of other ones. You can do bush flights where you have to learn how to navigate really well. But beyond that, it's just kind of like go do things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Set your own goals, set your own targets.
That's how like big. What was it? Minecraft started that way too. It didn't really have a goal. It was one of the first games that were like that. They were just like sandbox, go do whatever you want.
Right.
And yeah, it spawned a phenomenon. So
yeah, no, I mean, Flight Simulator is also like what the oldest software series that's still under development. I think.
Yeah. I remember one of the first versions of Flight Simulator I played. I didn't even remember that it was Microsoft. It was in DOS. I'm pretty sure it was before Windows, or if it was Windows, it looked like a DOS game.
No, it was before Windows. Yeah.
Yeah, and back then it was just some polygons. It was really like, oh, that's your runway. It just was one flat color. That was millions of years ago, and it was too complex, and I never learned how to take off.
This turned into a near replicant game. Like 1 million years ago, we had polygons.
But the latest one is probably like the largest leap that the franchise has taken, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think that video games have taken.
Yeah,
maybe
you can literally fly from anywhere to anywhere if you have enough gas,
and you can check whether it's correct. That's the wild thing. It's not just that it's all of Earth; it's all of Earth, and you can check whether it's right. Which is wild. I need to lower my volume more. I'm going to lower my volume more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do a test now. Is this better?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. See what happens. I think I lowered it a lot, but that might help.
I hear you fine.
I hear you fine as well.
Yeah.
Now we all sound even. All right, cool.
Good, good. Well, so let me make myself a little louder again.
No,
Rami is the bassist in the band. You know, like they're constantly like sneakily increasing the volume while nobody's listening. It's like, oh, you gotta hear the bass, man.
See,
like,
somebody is trying to say Rami was overpowering us first, and I'm okay with that. I don't know what the problem is. That sounds great to me.
As designed, right? As intended, not a bug.
Just 34% of the Habibis.
So I played some games other than Flight Simulator. If you want to hear about them.
Oh yeah, of course.
So I played Death's Door. Have you heard of it?
Not to be confused with Death Stranding.
Not to be confused with Death Stranding.
Death Stranding at your door.
I didn't play it for long, to be fair, because I had a busy week, and I had another obsession that came out of nowhere that I'll talk about just a second ago that took me the rest of the week. But I will continue playing. So Death's Door, you play a raven, an anthropomorphic raven in a world of anthropomorphic ravens. You're kind of like a Grim Reaper. It's kind of weird because you're sent to worlds to kill souls or something like that. I still haven't seen that part of the story where everything clicks together and makes sense. But it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's a action RPG with minimal RPG elements. Like you collect souls, I think, or energy or something, and you can upgrade yourself a little bit. And it's hard. And whenever you die, you see death in big on the screen, so you really feel it. You're like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to see I died, death. And you're like, okay, I gotta stop this. I gotta not die anymore. So it's one of those hard games, but it feels fair compared to other games where it's like, we're gonna put you in an impossible situation where you don't have enough information, and then you're gonna die, and then you're gonna learn. It didn't feel like that. It felt like at any point I could have just analyzed the situation and figured it out. I'm enjoying it. What's interesting is the reason I played this is because someone posted on Twitter a picture of them reading a sign that said "Summit that way," and then breaking the sign in half, and then interacting with it again, and you saw half the word "Summit that way," and I'm like, that was the most clever UI feature I've seen ever. Like where you just saw that replicated in the pop-up, and I'm like, you earn my money. And the game is clever like that in a lot of little ways, but that was the most clever thing that I've seen so far. So it has a sense of humor, it laughs at itself, and I love that. I appreciate it a lot. The first boss kicked my butt many times before I was able to beat it, and I'm looking forward to playing more. I don't promise I'll finish the game though, because it is hard.
It's very hard.
Oh,
pretty though, so pretty,
so good looking.
Oh.
Yeah. The second thing I did is I bought a game that I've purchased many times before. I don't know why, but sometimes that happens. about the Street Fighter 30th anniversary collection
Which
I'll
device this time?
I'll leave
on
you up, Kelsey.
Xbox.
On Xbox. Okay.
On Xbox this time. I have it on PC already, and I
Switch.
play online with some friends, and I have it on Switch. And I was like, you know what, I want to get it again. And I don't, because it's the silliest thing, but I get it because I want a fresh slate on the achievements, because it gives you an achievement for each Street Fighter game that you beat.
Yeah.
And I like beating them in chronological order. It feels like, this is the order I
Who
played them.
doesn't?
This is the order I played them in when they came out, and each achievement pops up one at a time, and I beat them all. And I did that this week. I just jumped in and I beat the original Street Fighter 1, which is not a good game by my opinion. It was great for its time, I'm sure, but like it's really difficult to play, and I'm mostly button mashing in that game because I can't even like consistently get a Hadouken. Then Street Fighter 2 World Warriors, which is one of the greatest games of all time, and then all its upgrades that just made it better and better with each iteration. And then the Street Fighter Alpha series, which is dear to my heart. I don't know about you, Fauzi, but I like Alpha 2 more than 3.
Alpha 2 is my favorite.
Yeah, from the Alphas. Then Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, Street Fighter 3 series, all the way to Third Strike. And I was happy that this week, just playing through all the Street Fighters, it was so good and nostalgic.
Did you go multiplayer or is it just finishing the games on?
So I played Third Strike multiplayer.
Oh,
I have a record of 14 wins, 8 losses, which is
Nice.
decent.
That's pretty
I
good.
mean, it's not. I'm not the best Street Fighter player of all time, but I can hold my own. There was this one Q character who I could not hit. Like I think he beat me two times with like perfect. I couldn't touch him. I couldn't figure out how to hit him. And I'm usually even way better players. I could at least hit them. And
Yeah.
I was not frustrated. I was like, wow, I've never played a Cube player that good. I can't wait to play him a third time. And he's like, disconnect. He was like, you're no challenge for
Not
me. I'm
worth
not
my
gonna
time.
Exactly. And I was so frustrated. I'm like, I've never had someone rage quit on me because I was too bad. So I'm like, oh god. So
I have. I was once.
I like it. I hope that Fauzi starts first. So last week I was playing Street Fighter, and I queued against this guy.
I was playing
and
this queue. And then this Makoto showed up. No, I was about to obviously one up Osama's embarrassing story with one that's even more embarrassing. That was like when Street Fighter 5 came out. So I played Street Fighter 4 like religiously. I played a lot of that game, and I was like Osama. It's like I don't usually would say that I'm good at the game, but I was good at Street Fighter 4. I was a guy main, and I played that game in Japan in the arcades, and I used to hold my own. There was a one time in the arcade that was one of my proudest moments. It was like I beat a bunch of people, and then they called their friends and they brought them over to the arcades to challenge this gaijin, and then I was beating them too. That was one of the happiest days of my life.
I can imagine.
So I was pretty good at Street Fighter 4. But Street Fighter 5 came out in a period of time when I was moving between Japan and Germany, so I didn't really play it that well. And even though it seems that it's not a big change, 5 was a really big change from 4.
Yeah.
Big change, how we play the games. A lot of the footsies changed, and the mind games around it was different. And I started playing this. So I was as I settled in Berlin, I was like, okay, maybe I should start playing this game properly. Meanwhile, my friends, the crew that I played with, they're already Platinum League. They're super good. So I was making my way up from silver to gold as I, came across this Zangief who completely destroyed me. I couldn't touch him. First round, perfect. So I was the second round started, and I was backing up into the corner as he's just walking towards me. And I'm backing up, and I'm and then as I reached to the corner, he just, kicked me, boom, dead. So I was bad game, whatever. I had a bunch of bad games. That was an especially bad game that night. Next morning, I have my WhatsApp chat with all my Street Fighter buddies. And they're like, "Oh, Fauzi, you made it to the front to the top post on the Reddit Street Fighter."
No. No.
They recognized my nickname, and it was that
no.
Zangief basically posting the video from our second round, and the title of the post was like, "What to not do against the Zangief."
Oh my god.
And it's me backing myself up into a corner, and then that Zangief just basically destroying me.
Oh my god.
I stopped playing Street Fighter V afterwards. I was like, I rage quit the game because I couldn't show my face anymore. Like those guys are brutal on the WhatsApp group, on the Reddit thread. It's just like, I'm done.
You get all these friend requests from people on the device suddenly. All people, all Zangiefs like being like, "Hey, you want to play?
Hey, you want to play?" Time
but
to
like,
level up.
a Zangief who knows what they're doing, walking in your direction is one of the scariest things in Street Fighter ever. It's just like,
Oh my god.
the determination. I'm actually a Grapple Main, so I play Zangief as well. But
You're a Grapple Main and you like hugs? Who would have thought?
Okay, I guess it's not as surprising as I would have expected. But in Street Fighter V, I actually play Zangief, except I didn't play Street Fighter V that much, so I play him like as if he was in Street Fighter 2. So I don't know any of his V triggers and V whatevers, but sometimes it almost gives me an advantage because people are expecting a thing that I don't do, and then they make themselves open to an attack, and I grab them or I grab them or whatnot.
And this is where Osama starts and goes like, "So this one time I was playing, and this guy just backed into the corner, and I just posted it on Reddit." It was just funny.
No, there's nothing
We've
good.
gone full circle. He schooled me in Street Fighter V. I schooled him in Street Fighter 3.
I love it. Well, we have to actually play someday. I really want to see this amazing, because Street Fighter 4, I'm not that great. I'm much better at Third Strike, but I'll play you in both. I'd love to see how.
I just want to see you two like match off in every Street Fighter back to back.
Ooh,
and
that
just
would be
keep
cool.
score.
That would
Yeah,
be cool.
that's not bad.
I'd watch that. I'd watch that.
That'd be
After
fun.
that, I'm playing both of you at the same time in Mario Tennis Ace.
Yeah, you're gonna beat us like you beat us in what was the soccer game we played? Captain Tsubasa.
Captain Tsubasa. I actually played that this week as well.
Really?
I found the
Game was
game, by
great.
the way, the itch.io game. It was
Oh, yeah.
called Rewinder. It's by Etpa and Elo Smile. It's indie Mirror's Edge in a computer or something. It's like very neon-y lights, colors. There's sort of like a braid-like rewind mechanic. So if you mess up a jump, you can actually rewind, and it's all about going fast. It's a little rough around the edges right now, but it is one of those itch games. You know, normally when you download an itch game on itch.io, you kind of like you start and you see what happens. I don't know what the camera just did. You start and you see what happens, and then eventually you stop. And with this one, I started and I played it all the way through in one go. It was just fun. It was really fascinating. I think I just really want a new Mirror's Edge game.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, smooth wall run.
Hear you loud and clear, Robbie.
Right. Yeah, just really want a Mirror's Edge game. But yeah, the honest truth is like I just kept playing until I was done, and it's like a 30-minute game or something, but it was fun times,
really good.
interesting challenges. They have like the switches where you go between two realities. And you're just running, and you see the switch, and you're like, well, I hope if I touch this that I have like, oh, nope, it spawned in the other direction. Time rewind, go over the block again, and then jump. And it's just very smooth, very fun.
Good.
I'm
surprised how many games called Rewinder there are. There are a lot.
There's a lot of games called Rewinder. It's one of those names that when you're a student, I think you have to make a game called Rewinder or Rewind or something like it. Because I think I did a game called Rewind or Rewinder at some point.
What if I make this platformer where it's like, the Prince of Persia Sands of Time, and I can rewind time?
What if we call it Rewinder?
Durr.
Rewinder.
Nailed it. Like
I'm pretty sure there's too many games called Rewind. So let's go a little like just, and then you look on itch.io, there's like 2 games called Rewind and like 75 called Rewinder.
I think at some point somebody was like, "There's too many games are called Rewinder. I'll just call mine Braid."
Right.
And go
Yeah.
with that. Go with that.
No, so I played that. That was interesting. I played Mario Tennis Aces, and I had good matches. I had bad matches. I had matches where I basically posted on Twitter at how good I played, and I had matches where I'm pretty sure the other person posted on Twitter with how bad I played. So I think I went through the full gamut of like feelings.
Yeah, I mean that's how matchmakers kind of work anyway. Like for every matchmaker I've worked on, they don't just look at your win record and loss record overall. They look at how many games you've won or lost in the last 5 or 10 games, and they match you with people who have similar record because their goal is to get you as close as possible to 50% win. They want everyone to get close to that. So if you're only winning consistently, something's broken with the matchmaker. That's not what it's designed to do.
I'm pretty good at Mario Tennis Aces. I win. I win frequently. I'm at the. But I will say, it has a ranking system that I think they use for matchmaking. So if you win, you get a bunch of points, and you go up a rank, and in the higher rank, that kind of thing. And I will say, as soon as you get beyond like B, I don't know what people are playing, but I think they're playing in slow motion. Like they're just like they never run in the wrong direction. They always have plenty of time to get the ball back, and I'm just running back and forth and just like oh my god, and like oh no, they went the other way. And they're just like, oh okay, I see what you're doing. Well, let me just get over there for a second. Yeah, okay, I got it. Okay, I'm gonna do this now. And it's completely different realities. Like very clearly, I have nothing on them.
I feel like this is one of the things that multiplayer online kind of brought into gaming that we didn't have back in the arcade days, or like in like like you played Street Fighter or like fighting games within the crew, so like you're better than your friends or your cousin or like the neighborhood, and that was your realm. So you were like, I'm pretty good with this game, so everybody had that circle around them, so they kind of like, we all love Street Fighter. And then it was like, now this game is online, and then you watch videos on YouTube or something like this, you go like, oh wow, I'm really rubbish.
Yes.
There are people that are like on a different human level with these multiplayer games in a way that I can never match up.
Right.
Yeah. There's this interesting thing that used to happen before. I'm sure you could attest to it, where people like the fighting game knowledge that you had within an arcade differed from another arcade. So like I remember playing Capcom versus SNK2 specifically, and going to an arcade called Pinocchio that was on the other side of the city where my friend lived, and going there, and like we had a character who was soft banned in our arcade because we thought he was too strong, and they're like, oh, he's easy, you could counter him. This was Huamaru, remember? With the typhoon attacks and the winds, which looked like their hitboxes were massive. I was like, no, this is easy. You just take
jump
this.
over them.
It's like super easy to counter. But we couldn't figure out quick enough, and that character just like seemed too strong for us. But I took back that knowledge back to our arcade, and all of a sudden everyone was like, "Oh, we're not playing him, but for the other reason, he's bad now." Stop. And there was I think she was called Hibiki, which was the opposite. We thought she was useless, and then there's one guy who destroyed us and opened up the possibilities, and all of a sudden everyone's picking her up. So this doesn't exist anymore. Now you just like go online and everyone's like, these are their strengths, these are their weaknesses, this is how they match up. These are the best players in the world and how they play together. And you could learn a character like this. Like not learn, actually be able to do it, but understand their strengths and their weaknesses and their hitboxes and their frame captures, when that same knowledge was stretched over years in the past in the arcade culture.
Until somebody figures that out. Even in the LAN culture, like we early days of StarCraft, like within my group, there was, it was a rush until you get like a bunch of carriers in Protoss. And once you do that, they're unstoppable, is what we all thought. Until like,
rush, all the way.
Another, another kid from another neighborhood wandered into our LAN, and they were like, oh, let's beat this kid. Here's like, 12 carriers have arrived, and like, let's attack this guy. And then like, with one unit, cast the lightning spell, destroy all of them.
Right.
And like, I remember that first moment of me going like, what just happened? Like this guy can beat me every single time. My foolproof plan with Protoss just completely went down the toilet. And now we need to think about this game completely differently.
Yeah.
Just in like this 30 minutes encounter with this dude from a different land,
Yeah.
I used to have that. I trained. I taught a lot of people StarCraft, and there was this one kid taught him StarCraft, and I had a very similar strategy, right? Like Protoss, and just get high in the tech tree as fast as possible, because you could bring the Archons, you had like the Zealots, you had the carriers. Like between that, you had a pretty good, well-rounded thing. And I'm just like getting my stuff together, and suddenly he just drops one of those Reapers into my base. The things that shoot like the explodey blue orbs that just stick next to a building for like a second and then explode, as if they're like trying to insult you the last second before they explode. Just drop 2 of those into my base. There was nothing I could do. I just watched my base fall apart. I'm like, I'm not teaching you anymore. I'm done. Like this was fun.
It was like, like the early days of StarCraft. Esports was already a thing in South Korea in like the late 90s, while we were slightly, still gathering around how to be good at this game. And then like the way of watching games at the time was to download the replays from like the pro games that are happening in Korea.
Right.
So you download the games and you go like, our StarCraft games before we started downloading replays were like 45 minutes. 30 minutes, 25 minutes, because we're all like building armies of carriers, and then we just rush at each other. And then like we watch the pro matches, and like, oh, this guy just won in like 1:40 with a Zerg rush. And like we start to understand what a Zerg rush even mean, and then practice like downloading those replays. I think there was like a focal time in which we were just playing amateur neighborhood Street Fighter / StarCraft to downloading these replays, seeing like what the pros did. And then us transforming into like the unbeatable people in our country, because we're practicing these things that we've learned. And now it's a YouTube search away, or like you watch people figuring that stuff out on Twitch.
Yeah,
I kind of miss that. I kind of miss that like not knowing whether something is true. I think that was why I liked Fez so much when it came out. Like you played that game and you were genuinely unsure whether what people were telling you about the game was true. The people would just be like, "Oh, you can do this," and I'm like, "Can you? Is that?" And then you'd go try it, and it's like, not sure if that's true.
Yeah.
Back in the days, that was everything, right? Like Pokemon tricks, especially Pokemon. I don't know what it was with Pokemon, but there were like a million myths about like secret Pokemons, 150-second Pokemon, like corrupted Pokemon. That one was true, it turned out.
I feel like this is the launch window now of a game. So like when a game has like been under wraps, and then it hits, and then everybody's playing it at the same time, it's kind of when everything goes. Like when Breath of the Wild came out, there was a bunch of people go like, what this dragon does, or like where do you get the shard, and like people kind of me and my friends, when we were playing Breath of the Wild, we were like, we're not going to look at the internet.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're just going to play it together, and then we might share experiences in the morning when we get together and stuff like that. And that made it kind of made it feel like that time that you were talking about.
The schoolyard time when people
schoolyard time. E.T. felt like the internet went on a collective schoolyard time when the demo came out. It was like everybody trying to figure out what are the secrets in this game and all of that.
Right. I don't know. We made a game at Vlambeer back when I was at Vlambeer called Yeti Hunter, which was basically based around that, where you hunted a Yeti, but there was no Yeti.
Mm-hmm.
So we just had all the traces for Yetis in the game, but there just straight up wasn't a Yeti in the game.
Yeah.
Except for it would check your hardware configuration and it would generate a number out of that, which would be stable on your computer.
Mm-hmm.
And for very specific numbers, we enabled the Yeti.
Wow.
So there was a Yeti in the game, but only for very specific people. And then we also pixeled it slightly off grid. So all normal images were like 32 by 32, but then the Yeti was like 36 by 36. So if you would take a screenshot of it,
looks like a bad Photoshop.
It looks like a bad Photoshop.
Wow.
Oh my god!
And it was really fun to see
That's
that sort
so
of like
clever.
old discussion happening again. When people are like, okay, you're full of it. Like, there's absolutely no Yeti in this game. We had to go apologize like later on to be like, we're sorry. Like, we didn't mean to make everybody doubt your like truthfulness
Oh my
online.
god,
But
that's incredible.
it did
That's
work.
amazing.
It was good.
That's clever. That's really clever because it
It was
does
fun.
kind of reproduce that. Because the first version of that I remember is in Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, where you were able to play as Akuma. And the way to input it, even if you knew how to do it, the success rate was like 1 out of 20 times. And each time cost a quarter. So like, and they just made it so incredibly hard to play as Akuma that like for the longest time people just didn't believe it was actually a thing. Especially because IGN ran a thing a few years earlier where they said you could play as Shang Long, and that turned out not to be true. So like Akuma was the truth that nobody believed, or that very few people believed until they did. And you reproduced that, Rami, with
Right.
the Yeti.
Well, it's funny because it was based on another game which was done by Mr. Pedunkian and I think Cactus. Cactus you might know from Hotline Miami.
Yeah.
But they made a game called Dungeon, which is probably the smartest game I've played up until that point in my career, and probably even after it. It was a 2D platformer in the forum days, right, where everything was forums, and you couldn't upload videos as easily yet, right? Like YouTube was starting to be a thing, and it was a platformer with 10 screens. Like it was, you go from the left of the screen to the right of the screen, and then you go to the next screen, one of those, right? And every screen had like a challenge, a jump, or a bunch of enemies, or like a thing you needed to do. And they used the same hardware trick. So we can't even take credit for the hardware trick. Just the implementation of it was ours. But the trick of theirs was that one of the screens would always be impossible. It could be screen 1, could be screen 4, could be screen 6, but the way the bats would move on one of the screen would be slightly different, like 2 or 3 frames different. So it was just impossible to get around them. Or the gravity was like 1% higher, so it was impossible to make the first jump. And the sort of like meltdown that happened in the forums was
that's
just
cruel.
it was exquisite because people go like, I know game's broken, I can't get over the first jump, and people would just be like, what are you talking about? Like, just take a running jump, just run and then hit jump. And they're like, no, I've tried like a million times. They're like, no, you have to be like on the last pixel, you have to be like just. It's not an easy jump, we get you, but like it's absolutely possible. People are like, no, absolutely not. And people are probably like, I can't get past the screen with the bats, and they're like, people are like, what are you talking about? They're easy. Like there's just was a screen with there was a screen with like spikes where there was one spot without spikes, and on the computer that was like broken for that screen, the collision box of the spikes was 1 pixel wider. So you actually couldn't land between the spikes. People are like, no, it's very precise, but you can absolutely do it. And they would post screenshots. And on screenshots, you can't tell the difference. On video, you absolutely can. But on screenshots, you couldn't see the difference. So people were just like telling each other that they were bad at a video game.
Oh, no.
Everybody was telling the other people that they were bad at the game, even though nobody could beat it.
Oh my god!
And it was the funniest thing. It took like 2 or 3 days before they revealed what happened. By that time, that entire forum thread had just turned into like absolute madness.
Okay, I really need to make a game where I do something like that now. You just added an item to my bucket list. That's
incredibly
incredible.
Funny.
That is incredible.
The indie scene does good stuff. Like especially when you get them to do like weird stuff, it gets really, really interesting sometimes.
Absolutely.
I think that's like what
I remember when they
Undertale
posted
as
like,
well
okay,
did
we're
really well,
gonna
is that it
reveal
kind of
what is happening
excited
here, and it was
people
just
about
it was really interesting.
What happened?
Looking at stuff.
Fauzi dropped.
No, I see him.
Fauzi's back.
Okay, there he is.
I was the one that disappeared. I thought
You were the one that disappeared. I mean,
no.
maybe all of us disappeared.
I know.
It's all relative.
I was just talking about like how Undertale like really created a lot of excitement for people to kind of look up all sorts of stuff and possibilities, because everything was possible around when the game came out, and that's a really good example of an indie game that did that collective schoolyard kind of thing. And also like there were some cruel things for people to discover within that game too.
You almost wouldn't believe everything that was said about Undertale, because you'd be
Right.
like, this game is adorable, and it's like,
Yeah.
no, it's not. No, it's like watching Up.
Yeah.
People show you all these screenshots from Up, and you're like, oh, this is a lovely movie. And then you watch the first 5 minutes, you're like, oh, why did I watch this? I cry too much.
Oh, hell
every
yeah.
single time.
Multiple
every
times.
single time.
I had to brace my kids whenever I showed them that
Who shows?
movie.
Why are you showing? What? I feel like Up is like the 118+ movie that I'm like, you absolutely do not. It's like,
You
look
have
at your
to have those conversations with kids. I remember at one point, my middle daughter, I told her about death. We discussed death, and she's like, "No, I don't want." Like, she was like 5 years old. She's like, "No, I don't want." I'm like, yeah, people die and they don't come back. She's like, "No, I don't want." That was the conversation.
I mean,
like, Up helps
sure,
with
but
things like that.
there's a difference between like eventually people die and like you can grow up with your loved one together and then get to like 45 years old and then they die just kind of out, and like death is a topic, and it's a big topic in Arabic culture as well, and we have sayings about it and we have culture around it. Like I feel like growing up, death has sort of like been a bigger topic on the Arab side of my life than at the Dutch side of my life. But I don't think kids necessarily need to know that life can just absolutely be the worst thing ever every now and then.
You're
And
right.
Up is just like, it's just like stabbing you.
Yeah.
It's like, look at this one. Oh, they're growing up together. They're making drawings. They're making plans to go travel. They have a saving spot. They want to have children. Why is she crying? Oh, she's dead now.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's still heartbreaking.
What? And then it's it's an incredible movie, but it's an interesting one. We need to figure out the camera at some point.
Yeah, what is happening?
It's just Fauzi doing like refreshes. It's just looking up some Street Fighter stuff and going like, oh, wrong tab.
No, it's my VPN needed to reset.
I see.
That time of the day.
I think we're gonna wrap it up. We did 30 episodes. 30 episodes of the Habibis. I don't think when we started that was like, I mean, we knew we were wanting to do a podcast, but it got out of hand, which is nice.
Let's do this thing.
Right.
I think it started with the Captain Tsubasa thing.
It did.
Rami.
It did.
Yeah, we're playing Captain Tsubasa 2-on-1 as well.
Yes.
Right.
From my point of view, my story of how this started is we played Captain Tsubasa. We were laughing and joking, and one of us, I think it was Rami, said, "Hey, this is a really interesting conversation. We should have a podcast and record this." And we were like, "Yeah." But next week, he actually showed up with the equipment. He's like, "Okay, we're doing this." I'm like, "Oh, this is a thing."
Right.
I need to claim ownership of the idea of the name. Because I was talking to Rami and you about it before even the podcast.
Yes.
And I said the three of us need to wear galabiyas.
Yes.
Right.
And go to GDC together and have the Habibis on the back.
I remember that. Yeah.
And they were like, let's do that in the podcast.
Right. I almost wore my jalabiya today, but I didn't have time anymore. I was like, where is it? Yeah, I don't know. For me, it just kind of came together as we were talking between the three of us, and I think there was a Twitter chat or there was a chat somewhere that ended up just being called Habibis, and I think it was you, Fauzi, who came up with the name. Yeah, and then we just like, okay, I guess this is
the
it.
name.
And then we did 3 really bad pilot episodes.
Yes, they were terrible.
They were so bad. I think I still have them somewhere.
Yes.
I feel like in the far future, maybe when we get to 60,
yes,
we'll post the pilot episodes and we'll just do a commentary track or something.
The bootleg days.
Yeah.
Right. So like none of us had microphone days and we were just like, talking into our laptops.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh God. Those are fun in their own way.
I could not have believed that we would have ended up here with like lovely community, like live episodes, 30 episodes. We did all of Ramadan.
Yeah.
Like some good stuff.
Yeah, it's fun.
Super proud of us. Way to go, brothers.
It's been lovely. And it's been, again, like huge thanks to the community that just showed up and became part of this place. Because, a podcast is, it's the audience. It's sure we're the ones talking and annoying you with microphone issues, but it's really all of you that make this place the place it is, and we just wanted to say thank you and do it live for once. I don't know. It kind of worked.
Yeah, it
The
did.
live thing. Yeah,
it was fun.
There's a little bit of issue. I need to figure out
Except
how
for
to
the
make the
musical
cameras
chair
stay.
thing.
I mean,
It's okay.
I can just move all of us around a little. Nobody will notice. Anyway, I think we're gonna wrap it up. I think all of us have other things to do. Osama needs to go back to bed.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Fauzi needs to get into meetings. I need to start my day. So we're gonna wrap up for today. I think that'll be it. Thank you everybody for listening. We'll be available on Discord next podcast. I'll be editing this into something that doesn't mention cameras every 12 seconds. And then we will be back next week with a new episode of the Habibis. Salam.
Salam.
Salam.